The emergency entrance of St. Bridget Medical Center had witnessed thousands of difficult days, but none quite like the bright Monday morning when an ordinary act of kindness collided with a lifetime of discipline. Ambulances rolled in beneath a clear blue sky, families hurried through the automatic doors with worried faces, and exhausted nurses moved from one patient to another without slowing down. In the middle of that organized chaos stood a quiet woman in navy blue scrubs named Maris Hale, whose calm smile had comforted countless strangers. Almost nobody walking past her knew that years earlier she had led Marines through some of the most dangerous humanitarian rescue missions overseas. The medals, the rank, the sacrifices, and the painful memories were all hidden beneath the simple uniform of a hospital nurse. Before this day ended, the entire city would discover that true strength rarely announces itself. If you believe kindness, courage, and second chances still matter in today's world, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts every day. Maris had chosen nursing after retiring from the United States Marine Corps because she believed saving lives did not end when military service did. She had spent years commanding rescue teams during disasters, making impossible decisions under unbearable pressure, and carrying the emotional weight of every life she could not save. When retirement finally arrived, she searched for a quieter way to continue serving. Instead of camouflage, she wore scrubs. Instead of issuing battlefield orders, she whispered comforting words to frightened patients. The transition had not erased the discipline that defined her. She still arrived before sunrise, checked every supply twice, greeted every coworker by name, and treated every patient with equal respect, whether they were wealthy executives or homeless veterans. That same morning, a local motorcycle club arrived outside the hospital to visit one of its injured members. Most of them came peacefully, removing their helmets and speaking softly as they entered. Among them, however, was Ronan Voss, a broad-shouldered man carrying years of anger that had nothing to do with motorcycles. Recently unemployed, drowning in debt, and caring for an aging father with dementia, Ronan had become convinced the world existed only to disappoint him. Every inconvenience felt like a personal attack. Every delay became another reason to explode. The people around him saw only an intimidating biker with a harsh expression, never realizing how broken he had become inside. As visitors crowded the emergency entrance, hospital staff politely asked everyone to remain patient while paramedics rushed a critically injured child through the doors. Maris focused entirely on clearing the hallway, making space for the medical team. She never raised her voice or lost her composure, even as frustrated visitors complained. She simply guided people backward with quiet confidence, understanding that every second could determine whether someone survived. Ronan interpreted the delay as disrespect. His frustration, already boiling beneath the surface, erupted in front of dozens of stunned witnesses. His angry outburst echoed through the entrance, drawing every eye toward him. Maris neither argued nor responded with anger. She maintained her professionalism, refusing to let emotions interfere with the emergency unfolding behind her. Security quickly stepped between the growing crowd, preventing the situation from escalating further, while the ambulance team successfully reached the trauma room with the young patient. Many people expected Maris to demand punishment or humiliation for the man who had lashed out so publicly. Instead, she quietly returned to work as though nothing had happened. Her co-workers struggled to understand how she remained so calm. They did not know that military leadership had taught her something few people ever truly mastered: reacting emotionally often gives conflict more power than it deserves. Real courage sometimes means protecting peace instead of winning arguments. Later that afternoon, the hospital administrator reviewed surveillance footage and recognized Maris from an old military leadership conference years earlier. Curious, several staff members searched public records and discovered what she had never spoken about. Before becoming a nurse, she had served more than 2 decades in the Marine Corps, eventually commanding humanitarian response operations that rescued civilians after devastating hurricanes and earthquakes. She had received commendations for extraordinary leadership, yet had never displayed a single medal, photograph, or certificate inside the hospital. To her, those honors belonged to every Marine who had served beside her. Word quietly spread throughout the building, not because Maris wanted recognition, but because people were inspired by her humility. Doctors who had worked beside her for years suddenly realized the woman who calmly restocked supply cabinets every morning had once coordinated hundreds of Marines under unimaginable pressure. Younger nurses began asking thoughtful questions about leadership, resilience, and service. Maris answered each one gently, reminding them that titles disappear, uniforms eventually come off, but character remains forever. Meanwhile, Ronan returned home carrying the weight of his own actions. The anger that had exploded so easily earlier in the day slowly transformed into embarrassment. Videos recorded by bystanders began circulating online, but what surprised viewers most was not his behavior. It was the remarkable composure shown by the nurse who refused to respond with hatred. As journalists investigated the incident, they uncovered Maris's military background, and headlines praised her dignity rather than focusing on confrontation. For the first time in years, Ronan looked honestly at himself. Watching strangers celebrate the woman he had insulted forced him to confront something deeper than public shame. He realized he had become the very kind of person he once promised never to be. Years of grief, financial hardship, and emotional exhaustion had slowly stolen his compassion. None of those struggles excused his behavior. They simply explained how far he had drifted from the man he hoped to become. Several days later, Ronan returned to St. Bridget Medical Center carrying no pride, no excuses, and no expectation of forgiveness. He entered through the same doors where everything had happened, this time removing his leather vest before walking inside as a sign of respect. He found Maris organizing patient charts during a quieter afternoon shift. Without creating a scene, he offered a sincere apology filled with accountability rather than self-pity. He admitted that his anger had hurt innocent people long before that morning and promised to seek counseling for the burdens he had refused to face. Maris listened patiently. She did not minimize the pain his actions had caused, nor did she hold hatred in her heart. Years of military service had shown her that people sometimes make their worst decisions during the darkest chapters of their lives. Forgiveness, she believed, was never about pretending nothing happened. It was about allowing someone the opportunity to become better than yesterday. Inspired by that conversation, Ronan joined a local veterans volunteer organization that repaired homes for elderly residents and transported disabled veterans to medical appointments. Although he had never served in the military himself, working beside former service members taught him discipline, humility, and responsibility. Every weekend became another chance to replace destruction with service. Slowly, neighbors who once crossed the street to avoid him began greeting him with smiles. Months passed, and St. Bridget Medical Center organized a community appreciation event celebrating healthcare workers, first responders, and volunteers. Maris reluctantly accepted recognition only after insisting every nurse on her team stand beside her during the ceremony. As applause echoed across the courtyard beneath the warm afternoon sun, she reminded everyone that real heroes rarely seek attention. They simply continue showing up each day, choosing compassion even when the world gives them reasons not to. Among the volunteers setting up chairs and distributing water bottles stood Ronan, working quietly in the background. Few people recognized him as the same man whose anger had once overshadowed his better nature. He preferred it that way. Recognition mattered far less than redemption. Watching families laugh together, children play safely, and exhausted nurses finally receive heartfelt appreciation reminded him that small acts of service could slowly rebuild a broken life. The story spread across the community not because it involved conflict, but because it demonstrated something increasingly rare. It showed that strength is measured not by intimidation but by restraint. Leadership is revealed not through titles but through quiet example. True honor belongs to those who continue serving others long after applause fades away. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that compassion can change lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your encouragement helps us continue bringing inspiring true-to-life stories to viewers around the world. Before we reach the end, please leave a comment telling us one act of kindness that changed your life, or one person you will choose to forgive today. Your words may become the encouragement someone else desperately needs. As the sun slowly dipped toward the horizon, its golden light reflected across the hospital windows where Maris prepared for another ordinary shift that would likely save extraordinary lives. She never returned to the spotlight because she never wanted it. She returned to the patients waiting behind those doors, carrying nothing except a quiet smile, steady hands, and an unshakable commitment to serve. Ronan walked away that evening with no medals, no headlines, and no applause, yet he carried something even more valuable, the chance to begin again. Their paths had crossed on one difficult morning, but the lessons they left behind would continue inspiring everyone who heard their story. In a world often divided by anger, they proved that dignity is stronger than rage, humility is greater than pride, and one moment of grace can change the direction of an entire life.